all, welcome to the Training Arcade's demo video for our new game Noodle. My name is Nikita Tvalfhofen. I am the product owner at the Training Arcade, working along with Ellen, who will introduce herself.
I'm Ellen Burns Johnson. I am the lead game designer with the game agency and with the Training Arcade. And we're really excited to release Noodle for you all.
So the plan is that I'm going to walk through the CMS after Ellen introduces you to the game and its instructional design components. So Ellen, you are welcome to take it off.
All right. So I'm just going to share my screen here. We have a copy or a demo game of Noodle running right now. Let's go here. Okay. So I just want to take a couple minutes, like Nikita said, to go through game design of Noodle and also, what we were thinking about in terms of its instructional applications and the various features that learners will see when they're playing a game of Noodle if you put one together for them. So first off, the name Noodle is a kind of a phrase on it'll bake your noodle. If you've ever heard that phrase before, it means it'll really make you think. Although we decided to go with ramen noodles for our game's theme, not with baked noodles like lasagna. That is still the origin, kind of what we stuck with. It's a what we're calling a Wordle-like. So that means that the gameplay was inspired by by Wordle, which you may have played. It's from the Wordle is from the New York Times, but Noodle has while it has similar letter guessing mechanics, it definitely has its own noodly flavors. It has a lot of different mechanics that kind of extend the experience and I think make it really helpful as a part of your learning ecosystem. So let's talk a little bit about that. First off, a noodle puzzle can be 3 to 7 letters long, 3 to 7 letters long. So you can use it to reinforce and test on a variety of vocabulary. But the thing is, you can string together puzzles, a series of word puzzles to make a whole noodle game. So each noodle game doesn't have to be just one word. It could be several words. Each word is a single puzzle, and those puzzles are strung together to make a game. I'm really good at this particular noodle puzzle that Nikita put together because I played it before. Yeah, so basically you can see when you guess a letter or guess a word correctly, you get your bowls filled with noodles, you get some scoring mechanics, and you also get a little bit of feedback, which of course is something that you can, as a game author, you can adjust and make your own. And Nikita will go through that in a bit.
Yeah.
So what these scoring mechanics mean is you can set up competition between players if you want to have something that a series of puzzles or games that's running alongside a conference or a training event. You can see who scores the best over a period of 5 days, so on and so forth. We also have some hint mechanics, which will reveal one of the letters in the puzzle. And we've also added some I think they're really nice sound effects that I don't have playing at the moment, but they're nice sound effects and there's some soothing music in the background that kind of just makes it a joy to log in and play. So as a learning experience, Noodle taps into a learner's familiarity with the topic, right? This game that we're looking at is about noodles, but you can make it about anything. Asia is not a actual Asia with 2 A's is not spelled correctly. I'm just going to get this wrong. But if we're just talking about noodles, that's kind of a silly topic. You can use it to test vocabulary and reinforce learning on any topic. It's not just about recalling vocabulary, though, right? We have these categories and we have these prompts, which you can use then to challenge learners to really think deep and think creatively to figure out the solution to each puzzle. So it's not just what's the word for this, but here's a prompt and here's a category. What do you think the solution to the puzzle is? And then learners use the game mechanic of guessing letters combined with what they know about the prompt and the topic the prompt represents to recall a specific word. And so, as you know, this is really fun gameplay. People love to do this kind of thing. But then because we have those extra mechanics layered in, it ends up being, I think, a really useful way of reinforcing material.
Yep.
I mentioned the hint. I think a couple of the things just to note really quick before I pass it back to Nikita. This is fully responsive, so it's a great way to expand your offering in the mobile learning space if that's something you've been looking to do or to experiment with in your learning programs. I think it's a good option for priming learners before a training session or an e-learning course. Before they actually begin the training, you might give them something like this as a way of just getting their brain thinking about certain things. And then you can dig deeper in the training itself. Also really useful for reinforcing learning after a training, a more formal training event. Um, and of course, in the moments between, I think I mentioned a potential use case in a conference situation earlier.
Yep.
That's another potential good use case for this kind of game. But more broadly, it's just simply useful for encouraging people to engage with your learning ecosystem. If you have dozens of Noodle games and people can log on just to play one or two each day, it's a good way for people to log in, see what's available, and just get them more engaged.
Exactly. Awesome, Ellen. Thank you for sharing. I'm going to take over the screen share and walk those of you who already have the Training Arcade 10 game pack, now all game pack because we have 11 games, through the process of how you would build one. So give me 1 second. How to build our new game Noodle in the Training Arcade's admin CMS. So once you click on the new game button, you'll be brought to this game screen that I am sharing, known to us as the game editor. We have some additional content that hasn't been loaded in yet if you were to build a game from scratch. But since I wanted to save a little bit of time, I'm using a game that I've pre-built. So off of first glance, you may notice that there's a couple of things that are differently laid out and renamed. From here on forth, the training arcades plan to refer to games as puzzles. In other words, the puzzle type for this game is known as Noodle. We also wanted to rename the Save As section to Save As to further highlight to users that this name is the name which is only visible within the admin CMS, and their learners do not get to see this name. It allows you to either make duplicates of the game by making a copy game appear and renaming it to something such as Region A, Region B, Month A, Training A, etc. Also, important thing to note, at the time being, Noodle is only supported in English. This is for our convenience to release, and it allows us to further develop features whilst you're already able to play the game. Everything else, such as tags, the URL, game settings, and subscriber policy, and the danger zone are the same. The thing on the game info page which is different is the branding. Used to be under a different tab. Now we brought it to the first tab. If you wanted to add your logo to the game splash screen, you can still do so by uploading an image. For those of you who are not familiar with how this works, when you upload an image, it goes to the bottom left and pushes the Training Arcades logo to the bottom right. The new functionality here is that the text field for the company logo is in fact a text field specifically for your logo. So if I were to type in "you'll be learning," as you can see on the bottom left, your company's name would be listed here. The game title field is a new feature. You can set it to none if you wish not to have one. For those of you who do want to have some kind of title which would notify your learners of what the game's about, you can do so by adding it here. It shows up underneath the Noodle logo. On the next tab, you'll be able to add puzzles, a puzzle at a time. Everything in the puzzle field functions the same. The only difference is that we've named it differently. So functionally, everything is the same. Instead of as I mentioned earlier, instead of questions, we're renaming it to puzzle. And a new feature with our puzzles is this functionality called categories, which long term will allow you to sort your questions or puzzle types into certain subsections. So in this case, everything in this game is about noodles. So for simplicity, we just called the category noodles. Instead of a question, we have renamed this region to prompt. The idea being that you should be prompting the learner for the answer, and that could be either a question or any other format. In Noodle, our suggested method is to make a statement, for example, where egg noodles were invented. An important thing to note is that in Noodle, our character limit is currently set to 7. This may change in the future. The reason that it was done today this way is so that we can support mobile application usage. It's specifically a game designed to work extremely well on a mobile phone or tablet. If we made the character limit any larger than 7, the UI would not work as comfortably anymore, and that made accessibility and other readability issues a bigger problem. So for now, our character limit is set to 7. Below are the response fields, and everything in there is still the same. And the next difference is the theme tab. So for Noodle, we released 3 new functionalities within the theme tab. The first being that the Noodle default theme shows off the ability to change the theme colors within the game as a learner. For example, if I were to play Noodle dark theme, as a learner, I can go in, it will load on Noodle Dark, and then I have a choice to change it to either Noodle Light or keep it Noodle Dark. And I can make this choice at any point during gameplay. And the same for light. If I was a learner and you set the settings to have default light, then I can go into the settings, I mean into the game, I would load in and it would be light theme, and I can choose at any point to change it to dark theme. Another feature which we're trying to show off with the T theme is that long term we intend to support custom imagery uploaded into the background of Noodle. So for now, we just made a very simple tea room theme and made associated correct colors. And this is just a mechanic which will be built on later. Lastly, I wanted to share with you the newest feature, which we're hoping to push out for more games as we progress into this new tech stack, which is the custom theme. So the custom theme allows you to pretty much set any color that you would like through a color selector as the colors of the game. The cool thing is that you have these 5 options. You can also choose which way you want the font color to go, which is either black on white or white on black. The reason being that if you did want to go for a darker theme as your custom theme, you can do so and learners can still read what you wrote. I'm going to leave it as a default light theme. Next up is registration. We have defaulted all Noodle games to have registration required. We have found that some users are not aware that when registration is not required, any game played, including a same user playing numerous times, gets counted towards their subscription seat count. So in order to help people understand that that's what's happening, we defaulted the behavior to yes. And if you were to set it to no, we give you a warning as to why we suggest against doing that. Again, to protect your subscription count. Everything else here should be the same. Lastly is the published screen. Everything on this page should be the same as what is functionally available in your admin CMS. The only difference being that if certain features have been disabled on your domain, you will not see them here. I'm going to save the game. And I will load in. So as you can see, the sizing is off, and that's because I zoomed in for accessibility reasons. So I'm just going to zoom out real quick. All right. So this is what a learner experiences when they first load into the game. It is the home splash screen, the Noodle splash screen. You can see here that there's a color aside my playing field, and that's a color derived from your primary color, which is this blue that you see here for the start button and for the logo. This secondary color on the exterior is purely meant to fill in the space that otherwise is blank for people, then, sorry, that's otherwise blank if you did see it. The reason that we have a blank space in our game is not because we didn't want to have the game fully spread out to the size of your screen. The issue is that everyone's screen size is different. So in order to support people who do want to enlarge the text size for whatever accessibility or otherwise reasons, they can still do so without completely breaking the game. So an example is that if I zoom in now, right, all the font is big. Of course, it doesn't look as nice. You still have to scroll for images, but technically speaking, now someone who may have a harder time reading can do so. And we are not preventing them from doing that by auto sizing. So I'm going to go back to what fits my screen nicely. Another functionality I wanted to show you was the theme changer. So as you can see, I had previously saved the game to have the Noodle default light theme. And as a learner in this game, I can now change it to the dark theme. So I'm going to continue playing this game in the dark theme. Another thing which a learner can do at any point during the game, but also from the splash screen, is toggle the audio on or off. So I'm going to leave it on because personally I enjoy it. So starting the game, a learner will be prompted with the registration screen if registration is enabled. So as the learner, I'm going to fill in my name, my email, and I'm just going to skip my country and company for now. This is the game instruction screen. Our learners at any point can return to the instruction screen in the top right corner. Here they are given instructions on how to play the basic mechanics of the game. They also preview the colors selected, which is an important aspect for any gameplay because if I was a learner and I didn't know what the colors were supposed to be, let's say I was in the light theme, at least the colors are correctly reflected within the instructions. So other than that, I think everything is pretty self-explanatory. Additional is it gives you a little bit of a breakout of how the scoring works and how your final score is calculated, also against those on leaderboards when you have a tie. So this is the basic gameplay. This is a great example of a simple question, which let's say if I didn't know what the answer was, right, I would be in a position where I would have to make a guess. So I'm just going to move my controls aside for this recording. So for example, if I was a learner and I didn't know that egg noodles were invented in China, I would potentially make a random guess. Let's say I'm going to say it. Let me see. Italy. Let's say. Oh, for those of you who may have noticed, I just used my keyboard to do that. So in this case, I use my keyboard typed as I normally would, and I'm going to hit enter, and that fills in this attempt. So you can see here that this question came back, or this answer came back with 2 letters, which are in the word, but not in the correct place. 3 letters, which are not in the word. This information is also displayed on the keyboard. My next guess, maybe I didn't know, I didn't have any other ideas, and something we suggest you teach your learners to do when they're playing Noodle is they can put in any set of words, any word, any string of characters, which could help them get to the solution. So a great example is A, E, I, O, and U. I'm going to hit enter. And here you can see that the letters A is in the word, but currently in the wrong place. E, O, and U are not in the word, and I is both in the word and in the correct place. So at this point, I have a little bit more information, right? So let's say I'm going to do something similar and type in string, which has a lot of characters, which are really common in words as well. You can now see that I know that S, T, R, and G are not in the word, but N is in the word and in the correct position. If at this point I was a learner and I still didn't know what the word was, you can explain to your learners, and it's also in the instructions, that they can use a hint. Every word, dependent on its length, so whether it's 3 to 4 characters, 5 to 6, or 7 characters, it will have a different number of hints that the learner can use. So in this case, with a 5-letter answer, I have 2 hints. This is independent of how many hints I used previously, and it will not affect any hints I use in the future. So in this case, I'm just going to use a hint, and I can see here that the revealed letter is C. So let's say I didn't want to use this letter. I know it's there, but I don't want to use it. We can give it a different attempt. Let's say trying. You can see that C still stays visible for the learner, even if they didn't end up using it on that row. If I was a learner and I still didn't know what the word was at this point, I can reveal another letter. And, maybe looking at all the revealed letters, at this point, a learner may guess what the actual answer is, right? I know that C is here, A is here, we know that N is here, and I is here. So I'm only really missing one letter. And that's it. The mechanic is extremely simple. The learner gets a bowl filled when they get the correct answer, independent of how many attempts it took them. If they got to the last row and they still didn't get it correct, we would reveal to them the correct letter. I can show you that in the next puzzle. And they wouldn't get a bowl filled for that word. So here the score is also dependent on the fact that I used 2 clues and I used, I think, 4 or 5 rows of my available. So in this case, I'm going to just guess random letters until we get to the end. Um, as you can see, I got to the last row. I did not get the correct word. It reveals to me the correct word and provides me with the incorrect feedback. Um, as you can see here, that means that I've played 2 puzzles, but I only got 1 bowl previously filled correctly. And honestly, that's the primary mechanic. At any point, again, I can turn off the audio, change the settings, or restart the game, which I'm not going to do. I'll just play through the next couple of ones so you guys can get an idea of the feeling. One thing I would like to point out is that the length of the word dictates the number of rows available. It's the number of letters plus 1. So in this case, rice is a 4-letter word, but I would have had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 attempts to guess at it. We have now reached the prompt of the answers of the last word. As you can see, puzzles played 7 out of 7. I'm going to hit continue as a learner. That brings me to the end screen. It shows here my final score and how many of the words did I get correct. So in this case, I got one wrong, so that's an 86% correctness. If I was a learner, I can choose to play again and try to get my score higher. If, for example, you were using a shared device for your learners, the learner could instead choose to log out, and that allows a new learner to register at this game. And you can view the leaderboard if you chose in the game settings to select that option to yes. So in this case, you can see there's a bunch of people playing. And on the instance of a tie, as you can see between Ellen and Jacob both got the same score. However, Ellen ranked higher than Jacob purely because she did it faster. So in this case, Ellen is ranked as 9 and Jacob 10. You can see here that in this playthrough, my ranking is 12, and so I did not make the leaderboard. And that covers it. So thank you all for watching. If you had any questions, please feel free to reach out to our lovely customer success team. If you wanted to play this game, we will leave a link in the description below. And you're more than welcome to reach out at any time. Thank you so much.